Hi, I want to tell you a story that's based on an ancient folk tale, The Peddler's Dream. But this is a retelling of it, and I have changed the peddler into a juggler. You see, once upon a time, there was a juggler who lived on the outskirts of a town, down a windy dirt road in a small shack. And out behind that shack was a large rock. And the juggler loved that rock because in the evening he would climb up on that rock and he would sit and look up at the stars and look past the stars to the maker of the stars. And he would say to the maker of the stars, "Thank you for making me a juggler." And every morning the juggler would walk into town down that windy dirt road until he came to the town park. And in the town park, people would pass on their way in the morning to work or to school, and he would juggle for them. And the people would stop and they would watch the juggler juggle. Now, first thing in the morning, people's faces often look something like this, because they were tired and really didn't want to be walking to work or to school. But when they would watch the juggler, an amazing transformation would happen to their faces, something like this. And they would have a brighter day because of the gift that the juggler gave to them. Now, in exchange for the gift that he gave to them with his juggling, they would give to him money. He didn't make a lot of money, but that's okay, because you don't have to make a lot of money to be happy, especially if you love what you're doing and you're serving others by doing it. And that's what the juggler was doing with his juggling. Well, one day he was standing in that park, juggling away for the people, when all of a sudden he felt a tug on his pant leg. And he looked down, and there looking up at him was a little kid. I think it looked something like this. And the little kid asked him, or the juggler asked the little kid, "What do you want?" And the little kid said, "Can I have that juggling ball, please?" And then the juggler thought, if I give away one of my juggling balls, I'll only have 2 juggling balls left. And you can still juggle with 2, but just not as good. But he looked at that little boy, and he thought to himself, he looks very poor, and I bet he doesn't have any toys, and probably dreams of having a toy like this juggling ball. And the juggler was very generous, and so he gave the little boy that juggling ball. And off he ran to play with it. Well, a few days later, the juggler was juggling on his spot in the park when he felt another tug on his pant leg. And he looked down, and there looking up at him was another little kid. And it looked something like this. And he asked the kid, "What do you want?" And the kid said, "Can I have that juggling ball, please?" And the juggler thought, if I give away another one of my juggling balls, I'll only have one juggling ball left. And you really can't juggle with just one. But he could see that that little boy was also poor. And he was very generous. And so the juggler gave him that juggling ball. And off he ran to play with it. Off he rolled to play with it. And that left the juggler with just one juggling ball. And you really can't juggle with just one. But you can still have fun with it. And that's what the juggler would do. He would toss it around, and he'd toss it to people to catch, and they would toss it back. Thank you. And the people still gave the juggler money, but a little less money now, but that's okay because you don't have to make, well, you know what I'm saying. Well, a few days later, the juggler was having fun tossing and playing with that juggling ball when all of a sudden he felt another tug on his pant leg. And he looked down, and there, looking up at him, was, you guessed it, another little kid that looked something like this. And the juggler asked the child, "What do you want?" And the child said, "That juggling ball, please." And the juggler thought, if I give away my last juggling ball, I'll have nothing to juggle. And then I'll have no way of making money, because juggling is all I know how to do. But he could see that that little girl was also poor, and he wanted to make her happy. And so he gave her that juggling ball. And off she ran to play with it. And she looked back at him and wondered, what will happen to him now? Well, the juggler had no way of making money now. And he had no money in his pockets to buy food with. And he had no food in the cupboards at home. And so the juggler walked home down that windy dirt road until he came to his small shack. And he went out behind the shack to that large rock. And he sat on the rock. And he looked up at the stars. And he asked the maker of the stars a very important question. He asked the maker of the stars, "What do I do now, Lord?" And then he went to bed. And as he lay sleeping that night, he had a dream. And in his dream, an angel of the Lord came and said to the juggler, "Little juggler, tomorrow, get up, walk into town, go to your spot in the park, and there you will receive a great reward." And then the angel left. The juggler woke up the next morning, and he thought, what an amazing dream. But it was just a dream, and I'm weak from hunger. So the juggler did not follow the dream. Well, that night he went to bed even hungrier. And for a second night in a row, an angel of the Lord came and stood at the foot of his bed and said to him, "Little juggler, tomorrow get up, walk into town, stand on your spot, and there you will receive a reward." And then the angel left. The juggler woke up the next morning and he thought, 2 times I've had this dream, but it's just a silly dream. And so he didn't follow the dream. The next night, that night, he dreamed for the 3rd time in a row that an angel of the Lord came and stood at the foot of his bed and said to him, "Little juggler, tomorrow you will get up. You will walk into town. You will stand on your spot in the park, and there you will receive a reward." And then the angel left. But then he stopped and he said, "And don't make me come back here again." The next morning, the juggler woke up and he thought to himself, 3 times now I've had this dream, and I think I'm starting to annoy that angel. And so he decided that he would follow the dream. Now, he wasn't sure he'd be able to make it as he started to walk down that windy dirt road because he was so weak from hunger. But an amazing thing happened. With every step he took, he grew stronger and stronger and stronger because he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. Now, when he got to his spot in the park, he stood there all day long. People passed him back and forth. Nobody spoke to him. Nobody even looked at him. And nobody gave him a reward. At the end of the day, he was very discouraged. He didn't think he had the energy to walk all the way home, and so he was going to go find some place in the park to lie down and rest. But just then, a prominent businessman approached him and said to him, "Little juggler, I watched you today standing on your spot. People passed you back and forth all day long. Nobody spoke to you. Nobody even looked at you. And you did not juggle. What were you doing?" The juggler looked at the businessman and said, "Sir, I had a dream." "You had a what?" said the businessman. "A dream, sir." "You mean to tell me you're chasing after a silly dream?" "Yes, sir."
"Well, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard," said the businessman. "Don't you have anything better to do? Don't you have any responsibilities? Look at me. I have dreams, but I'm far too busy, far too responsible to go chasing after silly dreams. In fact, I had a dream just last night. Would you like to hear it?"
"Yes, sir."
"Well, it's a silly one, but I'll tell you anyways. I had a dream that an angel of the Lord came and stood at the foot of my bed. And he told me that on the outskirts of town, down a windy dirt road, there's a small shack. And out behind that shack is a large rock. And if I take a shovel and dig at the base of that rock, I would find a chest filled with gold." Laughed the businessman. "Where would I be today, little juggler, if I chased after such a silly dream?"
"I don't know, sir, but thank you for sharing your dream with me." And the juggler walked home, down that windy dirt road to his small shack. And he went out behind that shack to that large rock, and he took a shovel, and he dug at the base of that rock until boom, 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 he unearthed a large chest. And when he opened that chest, inside, he saw more gold than he had ever seen in his life. And the good things he did for others with that gold, I don't have time to tell you about today. But he did buy some more juggling balls, about 100 of them, just to be safe. The end. Well, I hope you liked the story of the juggler's dream. You know, one common thing that happens in folk tales is that the hero of the folk tale gets rewarded for something. Jack in Jack and the Beanstalk, he gets the goose that lays the golden eggs. You know what I'm talking about. And I think it's because we really like the idea that we'll be rewarded, and people will be rewarded
for the good things that they do. However, does that mean that if I'm a generous and giving person, I'm going to end up with a chest full of gold? Well, maybe, but probably not. But you see, that's okay, because there's a greater reward than all the gold that this world can give us. Let me read you something from the book of Revelation in the Bible. It's in chapter 22, verse 12. It's one of the very last things we read in the Bible. Jesus says this, "See, I am coming soon." That means Jesus is coming back. "I am coming soon. My reward is with me to repay according to everyone's work." So you see, if we do good things for others in the name of Jesus, if we help others, if we serve others, if we care for others, if we give to others who are in need, we will be rewarded. Maybe not with a chest full of gold or a goose that lays golden eggs, but we will be rewarded spiritually. Inside, we will be happier, and we will grow and become better, and that is great reward. However, the day will come when we stand before the Lord in heaven, and He will reward us for the good things that we did while in this life for Him and for others. So, be a generous person, be a caring person, be a loving person, give to people who are in need, and your reward will be great. Well, thanks for listening. Hope you have a great day.